You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Shawn Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach. Very excited about our guest today. We have Dr. Zach Mills, the Vice President of Medical Performance at the Vets. He has over 2 decades of experience in the veterinary industry, including his most recent role as Head of Veterinary Professional Services for the U.S. pet business until Boehringer Ingelheim Animal Healthcare. He also serves as the 352 Civil Affairs Command Preventative Medicine Veterinarian, where he develops and implements veterinary civil affairs strategy and training. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mills. Can you tell us more about this Civil Affairs Command Preventative Medicine Veterinarian? I didn't even know that there's such a role. What is that?
Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. Delighted to talk about that aspect of it as well. So I've got sort of parallel career paths. One with the vets is the VP and not traditional veterinary medicine, but traditional veterinary industry. The other one, I joined the U.S. Army Reserve back in 2003 as a vet treatment facility, and was relatively normal Army veterinarian up until about 2007, in which I got pulled over into civil affairs for a deployment to Baghdad in Iraq as part of that conflict that was going on. I was there in 2008. Loved the job with civil affairs as a veterinary officer and what we were doing to help other organizations, working with other veterinarians within the country, working with non-governmental organizations to try to improve the performance of the country economically from an animal standpoint. So I've been in it since then, moved through multiple battalions across Wisconsin and down into Puerto Rico, up into the Washington, D.C. area. I was then at a brigade in Philadelphia, and the command is that I'm located with, the 352nd, is just outside of Washington, D.C. at Fort Meade in Maryland. So 20 years in, really enjoy it, love the teams that we're doing, and have the opportunity to make a big difference in places around the country. And latest deployment was in Djibouti in the Horn of Africa in 2020 and 2021. So good to be back, but I think we do good work over there as well.
Fascinating. I love the veterinarians with the military background that we have. We have one on our team. I always want to ask, how do you find, in general, our veterinary medicine and what you see in practices? How is the process establishment, protocols, and policies compared to the military setting?
A good question. Processes and protocols and the medicines. I think there's two things to kind of look at on here as well. Is that nobody's better at process and policies than the Army. I think that they build from the ground up planners and executors, and so being able to look at it and a lot of different things, and also building contingency plans. So we are really prepared to do a lot of different things, and that's both on the treatment side with the veterinary treatment facilities and working with the military working dogs, and what we do in civil affairs, where we build contingencies as well. I think that we work well with the civilian side and as well with the manufacturers to try to bring in cutting edge things that we're doing, deliver the best care to the working dogs. The working dogs, if you look at estimates on the value of these dogs, numbers hover around $80,000 per dog. And so the investment is substantial. And it's a global footprint on what we're doing. And so we want to make sure that we deliver the best care to these dogs possible. And so working together side by side is important. The other thing that I would just add is that the veterinary profession within the Army as well, if that people make that a career, that after the first part of their time in the military, they have to choose to specialize. And so the military develops through the civilian side some of the top specialists in the world as well, in epidemiology, preventive medicine, surgery, internal medicine, lab animal medicine, and combines all of those skills and then builds that network that has that global footprint. So they do really well. Not going to say better at everything, but certainly there's room for improvement. But I think that if we work together, we can try to do the best for both sides.
Awesome. Well, then on to the vets. Can you give us a couple words on what is the vets? And then also weaving it from the previous question, was it helpful for you to see how the processes were established in such an organization as military and then bringing it to a multi-location organization in veterinary medicine?
Yeah, and thanks for that question. The vets is a really cool opportunity, and I think for veterinary medicine in general. This was started by a group of innovators with a technology background, serial entrepreneurs that are very, very skilled at utilizing technology to deliver service. And they saw the gap in the veterinary medicine side of things and the delivery of service and sort of what we were doing and where we were able to do it, utilizing their skills to be able to identify, plan routes, plan the things that we're doing, and then building from a ground up as well a platform for the medical record that integrates seamlessly or relatively seamlessly with those two components of it, going and then delivering veterinary care in people's homes. So when I say to a lot of people, mobile veterinary medicine conjures up a lot of different images. Some people still picture the old RVs and going up and parking outside and doing the medicine outside, but that's not our model. Our model is to be able to go there and take what we have into the homes and be part of it, where the animals are a little bit more comfortable, where the owners are a little bit more comfortable as well, and deliver the care that side by side with them. And that's a pretty cool model for me, because there's a lot of people who aren't able to get their animals into the veterinarian. That could be any number of reasons. But if they are able to learn about us, or if we're able to share those services with us, then we can take high level concierge care built on what we call the gold standard of care into their living rooms and be able to deliver that care with them and establish a new access to care. And so the access to care piece is big for me. This access to care is tossed around on the human side, and it's tossed around on the veterinary side of being able to get more care to more animals. And I think you've heard over the years the de-medicalization of cats. So we're more and more cats in the world, but we're not seeing them nearly as frequently as possible. But this is an opportunity. And then people with dogs, and they just either are busy in their schedule. Their dogs don't like the travel. They like the convenience of it. Post-COVID, it makes a lot of sense where people like to have the services because they're really busy. And so we go there. They are able to schedule things online, able to move those through, and then our software optimizes the routing on those, and we're able to get our veterinarians there and in the living rooms to deliver that care. And so you asked about what the military and the planning does as well. I think that the military makes me a better civilian veterinarian, and I think being a civilian veterinarian makes me better in the military. It's the duality of being in the reserve service, where you get to pull the best of both worlds on those. And from a planning standpoint, and being able to deliver some of those things from a process standpoint, that's really where the rubber hits the road when we start planning and going in and doing these things. And we want our veterinarians to be the best that they can, deliver the highest level of medicine that they can, to have a process standardized, to not to tell them how to practice veterinary medicine, but to say, this is the gold standard. This is what's in the medical evidence, and this is what the experts say, and then be able to offer that with the owners as well, to try to make sure that they're getting the highest level of care possible, whether it's in brick and mortar standard clinic or whether we're delivering it, and we want to be the ones delivering it in their homes.
That's really fascinating. One of the things that comes to my mind is you haven't seen a lot of consolidation of mobile vets. You haven't seen a lot of, the other large players that are in the veterinary industry across North America or Canada, US. You haven't seen them kind of enter into this world. And I mean, when I think about it, the thing that comes to mind is, the brick and mortar, you can really optimize your appointment book. You can see, I know veterinarians that put their hands on 40 to 50 pets a day. In a mobile veterinary practice, how do you build a business that allows you to scale the same level of success that you can in brick and mortar? Or maybe is it just different?
Yeah, your question's spot on, and you say 40 to 50 patients in a day, and I usually quote that the high end 25 to 30, but we know it's higher than that, and we know that they're running 3 exam rooms at a time and bouncing from one to the next, and then they have their technicians go in and the assistants go in and clean and prep and move everything, and that's really not what we wanted to do there. One of the things that we wanted to be able to do as well, recognizing that the stresses of veterinary medicine, the stresses for the people that are out there, there are a lot. People are leaving the profession right now. They're getting compassion fatigue. They're having problems. You can look at things such as the suicide rate, sadly, in veterinarians and say, what are we doing and what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And how can we create a place that will suit the veterinarians that don't want to see 50 patients a day, but they still want to deliver high level of care, work on client education, go in there and deliver the best that they can and establish that rapport moving forward. This is a model to do it. Instead of seeing 3 clients at a time, we're in one home at a time. The attention is absolutely focused on that owner, on those pets that are in there, to be able to deliver that care, to build that understanding. And I will tell you that when I go and do the ride-alongs with our veterinarians, and they're some of the best veterinarians that I've worked with at building partnership with these owners, when I leave, I always thank the people and ask them, what is it about our visit that you appreciate? And they said, nobody ever takes the time to educate me in the way that you guys do. Nobody ever takes the time to build that partnership. Nobody ever takes the time to be able to go through the medical condition, the diagnosis, the treatment, and the follow-up the way that you do. And that's because we create a little bit more space within our examination times to be able to do that. We charge appropriately. We charge the travel fees. We charge the individual fees, and then we charge it's a competitive price on everything we're doing beyond that. But we want to make sure that we're giving the time, due time, to be able to allow us to do those. You ask about the scalability of it. Do we make as much on an individual visit as are possible at a brick and mortar? No, we don't. Not the business model. But what we do offer is looking at the scalability and being able to offer incremental revenue on each of those businesses. And we look at optimizing those revenues at the same time and looking for efficiencies within those. And so, from a business standpoint and an innovation standpoint, if we're running 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals or vans as we do it, and I'll describe that in a second, we can make a little bit. But if you're able to look at that and scale across multiple cities and multiple vans, those small margins that you're working on will start to make a big difference in that. And so we're a growth model, and we have to grow to be able to hit those revenue targets as well. But we do because people want our service, and we're able to see that as we're expanding from not only state to state, but city to city. And we're now in 17 cities and growing. Our growth targets are big, and that because the demand is out there, and because of those things, the scalability sort of matches with it on as well.
So you mentioned technology, and what is innovative in the vet's infrastructure and technology that you could sort of brag about, if you will, and the cool things that you think that are innovative and innovative in the mobile space or in general in the management of veterinary business as it is?
Yeah, I think that's part of the piece where if we didn't have the technology, we wouldn't be able to do it. So our system that we use from a medical platform is called Ranger. We had tried some commercial things off the shelf, and they're good, but they don't fit exactly what we want. And so we've got a team of skilled technologists that build from the ground up exactly what it is. And when we need something changed, we don't have to submit a ticket to a commercial organization that's competing for the time. Everybody that we're doing from the inside out is focused on what we're doing. And so speed to change, speed to innovation, and prioritization, that's really important for us to be able to do these things. The second thing that we're able to do is optimizing the time and the time spread on those. And so looking at not only innovating what traffic might show, but throughout the days in the different markets, I think that's very important for us to be able to do those. If we're not seeing the patients, then we're wasting time. And so that's either not enough time between the visits or too much time between the visits. And so trying to optimize those times to get our teams in there is really important as well. Tying a innovation between what we're doing in the medical platform to the booking platform, to the follow-up calls, to our doctors and the medical notes, that's streamlined as well. And then we also are able to tie in things such as our lab data that is able to come in, and we're working on able to send those on normal lab results directly to the owners. And so they're getting them and following them up. So following in a human footprint, almost, if you will. The next thing that we're able to do, and this is starting to look at bigger and bigger data, other companies have done it, but not from a mobile standpoint, is looking at what are the inputs and what are the outcomes of what we're doing, and trying to optimize the best medical outcomes for the patients and the best outcomes for the owners as well. And so since we have our own data and our own databases, being able to look at and analyze those, we know what works and we know what doesn't work. And one of the things that we're working on right now as well is saying, is there a difference in these animals from a standpoint of laboratory results that are coming out that are going into a brick and mortar versus that we're coming to see them? And I say it this way, in that animals that are going in, they're getting stressed. They're getting in a car, they're driving in, they sit in an exam room where there's barking or meowing and other people going in, and they go in and have a stranger hands on them. And by the time they get the lab results that they're doing, are the heart rate, is it elevated abnormally? Are the cortisol levels elevated abnormally? Blood sugars, anything else that's going on, as opposed to being able to do it in their home and trying to normalize those. And so that, as a comparator, gives us something that might be something pretty special on continuous monitoring of animals, or being able to look at where their steady states are and delivering top medicine.
That's so fascinating. You said early on in the episode that the founders were from a technology background. What made them want to get into veterinary medicine, and what do you think the future holds for the organization now that you're there in your role, working with these, what sounds like former software startup founders?
Yeah, they're startup founders and the vision on it. The CEO is named Daniel Sagas, and he, I think this is his 9th company and being able to do this. and he's a passionate person in what he's doing. He's had some challenges with medical conditions within his family, so his immediate family, and being able to do that. He understands what it means to have the value of the human animal bond and being able to deliver what he can, and looking for a solution to be able to do those. And I think hearing him in his own words was really special for me. And it was powerful, I think, for the whole team to hear him and why he wanted to be able to do that, and starting a company essentially where he knew nothing about it, but building from scratch and seeing where can he take some of those things that he's had medically applied within his situations, apply them to the veterinary world, and be able to do that and help these animals live longer, happier, healthier lives. And that's where we're going. So I think one of the things I asked him right at the beginning is like, how big do we want to make this? Like, how big do you want it to go? And he's like, all 50 states and beyond. Like, there's a need everywhere. And so how do we make sure that we are the ones that are able to do that, and working on those efficiencies? Because as it grows, it becomes more complicated. And that's where the expertise within that company lies, is they're very focused on what they're doing from an analytical standpoint, and doing what works. So I try to bring in the medical side and understanding of what we're doing from the compassionate care, and how do we communicate for compliance, and build the trust and create a place where veterinarians want to work and feel like they've got a career that they can develop in. They're working on the back end on the operational side, and then we work hand in glove to be able to deliver that as we grow.
So, in your visits, do you see the trend, let's say, with cats going up? How many cats accessing this service? Because that's really, the downside of the in-hospital visit, because nobody wants to stuff the cat.
Yeah, and that's naturally, I think, where everybody's mind goes, is the cats, because they don't want to put their cat in. They hate chasing their cat around, or putting it into the carrier and coming in. But I'll tell you, I think that if we look across all the cities right now, we still see more dogs than cats. Some cities we see more cats than dogs, but people are looking for solutions. And I'll give you examples. To be a company CEO, he works from home and he just doesn't have the time to be able to do it. Single parents, we're doing it all the time. Multiple pet households, they don't have a car that will accommodate it. People that are elderly, or they might be injured or medically, they bring us in. Dogs that are dog aggressive, dogs that are people aggressive, dogs that don't like going into different things. And they start to look at, oh my gosh, that's my situation. That's my situation. And when people hear about it, and this word of mouth, we do the advertising, but it's word of mouth. When people say, that experience that I had, I think this might be great for you, because I was just at home working on my computer. They showed up. We did the exam. It was perfect. We did the treatments. They left. And I was able to drive on throughout my day without losing a beat. So I'm not planning my day around the vet visit, but I'm fitting the vet visit into the lifestyle that I now have here.
Yeah, it's so crazy with COVID and all of the changes that have happened. It's fascinating and kind of good timing. Dr. Zach, what do you think this looks like in the next 5 years?
5 years? In 5 years, we're going to probably be in all lower 48. We target the right cities first and growing. I think people are going to know about it more and more. People will see it. They see the advertisements on the social media, whether it's in a Facebook or a LinkedIn or Instagram, and the different places that we're able to do that in local markets. And people are able to say, you know what, that fits my lifestyle. And I think that might be something that I would like to try. And I think when people give us a try, the likelihood of them wanting us to come back again and talking to their friends is going to continue to grow. The demand is out there. Pet ownership is up. Dogs and cats, and for us to be able to do these things, it just makes more and more sense. And I think the only rate limiting thing right now is people understanding who we are and how to get a hold of us and make the appointments. Because once they do it once, they want to come back again.
So awesome. Well, I mean, it's like a perfect melting together of a really interesting industry, some software founders, and a neat idea. So thanks for sharing the story with us. We like to wrap up every episode the same way. So we got a couple questions for you. First is a book, a YouTube video, something you found inspiring on your journey so far.
I love reading. I'm in a book club that we do a lot of different readings on it. But I'll say that the one thing that continues to I come back to, and I want to share with a lot of people, is Dan Pink's book called Drive. And a lot of people know about it, and a lot of people are getting a thumbs up because, there's intrinsic and extrinsic motivations on getting people to do things. And I think that we can't just do an if then in that scenario. But if we create a place that where we're able to allow people to work autonomously and do the things, especially in complex tasks, and really, we've got doctors and veterinary technicians and city managers that do amazing things. Let them do amazing things, and let them develop the mastery of being able to do this new world, because the purpose is out there, and it's delivering awesome veterinary care to animals that might not otherwise get it, expanding the access to care. And so if people haven't read Drive, I think it's a great one. He's got videos that are out there as well. It's short, simple messaging, and it resonates with me. So of one of many, that's the one that I would point people in the direction.
That's awesome. And the second question we ask all of our visitors, can you suggest someone else as a guest from our industry for this show?
Yeah, absolutely. Across the depth and breadth of the areas, I've worked in the manufacturing side of things, working within industry side of things, working in university side of things. Can I recommend two people that are dear friends of mine? I think that either a yes or a no. One is a dear colleague of mine named Dennis Horder, and Dr. Horder's down with City Vet right now in Dallas, and he's worked across industry as well, and working as a chief operations officer down there, sharp as a whip, and he's changing the veterinary industry every single day. And the other one that I recommend is Dr. Jane Sykes. She's out at UC Davis, and she heads up their innovation program out there. Former chief veterinary medical officer of the College of Veterinary Medicine, so not just the best in the U.S., but often rated the best in the world. So we're integrating innovation at a university level and what they're doing, not only from a teaching and training standpoint, but from a technology standpoint. So either one of those, your listeners would really appreciate hearing some insight from.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.